With numerous incoming football transfers officially signing with the West Virginia Mountaineers, it's time for another roster update here on the Country Roads webcast. Let's go! What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Jordan Cruz back here with the Country Roads webcast. And before I get into this video, just want to give you guys a quick reminder, if you would, do us a favor, hit that like button, give us a thumbs up on this here video. It'll help not only this video's performance, but future videos' performances here on the channel. And if you're a West Virginia fan and you haven't already, be sure hit that subscribe button. Helps us and it helps you as it helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, let's get into it. All right, as I stated in the cold opening, multiple West Virginia Mountaineer transfers have officially signed and joined the West Virginia football program, being added to the university's official roster, which means we can add them to our roster here on the Country Roads webcast, and we'll have 4 different players now officially added to the West Virginia Mountaineers roster for the upcoming 2023 football season here on the Country Roads webcast, May 24th roster update. And we will try and run through these in the order in which they occurred, beginning with the first official announcement that came back on May 18th, and that was the addition of Tomiwa Duraje, the 6'4", 278-pound defensive lineman transfer coming over from the University of Kentucky with 4 years of eligibility remaining. So we have the official announcement of Tomiwa Duraje joining the West Virginia Mountaineers defensive line. So that means that we can now add him to our roster here on the Country Roads webcast as we continue to try and update this roster with the addition of scholarship players as they join the West Virginia Mountaineers roster for the upcoming season. That, of course, is the one caveat that I have for this roster, is that it will only include scholarship players, so you won't see any PWO additions that the Mountaineers have added, even though they may contribute for this upcoming season. But until they earn a scholarship, you won't see them on this roster here on the Country Roads webcast, which 3 out of these 4 additions that the Mountaineers are adding are on the defensive side, with the first one, of course, now coming in Tomiwa Duraje, who can now be added to the roster here at the defensive line position, is where we're going to slot him currently. And of course, the actual position is subject to change. We never know where these players may end up, but I feel pretty confident that Tomiwa Duraje will end up as a defensive lineman for the West Virginia Mountaineers with 4 years of eligibility, remaining coming into the West Virginia program as a redshirt freshman there at the defensive end position. All right, next up, another addition on the defensive side. As I said, the majority of these coming on that side of the football for the West Virginia Mountaineers, but they also added Tyron Bradley, a 6'3", 250-pound junior defensive lineman, originally from Lubbock, Texas, coming to the Mountaineers from Abilene Christian. He will have 2 years of eligibility remaining, listed as a defensive lineman addition, and I think he is a great pass rusher with good pass rushing capabilities. But for our purposes here, I think I'm going to currently list him as a bandit on the roster here on the Country Roads webcast. If he ends up factoring in more at the defensive end position, then that'll be fantastic, and we'll factor him in there in the future. But as you've seen here with the addition of Tomiwa Duraje, there's a lot of names there at the defensive end position. So for now, for our purposes here on the CRW, we're going to factor in Tyron Bradley at the bandit position here among the defense. As you can see, there's only 2 scholarship players there for the Mountaineers currently, so why not add another name there in Tyron Bradley, the sophomore coming over from Abilene Christian, and I think he'll be a good addition for the Mountaineers at that spot. I think he's got great pass rushing capabilities, and at 250, I think he's a good fit for the bandit position personally. Like I said, he could end up here fitting in more at defensive end. West Virginia has a lot of guys there that are looking to spell Sean Martin, who we know will be the first teamer there, and certainly Tyron Bradley has the capability to be able to do that as well if they call upon him to do so. But like I said, we'll factor him in here at the bandit position for now. Like I said, a lot of these positions will change as we progress through fall camp. That's why each one of these roster updates have the date attached to them. So if I make any changes, you'll be able to know and you can follow along as we progress through the off season and move into fall camp with position updates and more players being added. As of course, that will continue to be the case now as we reach the point where not only these transfers will be added, but of course, some of the incoming freshmen that didn't enroll early will also be added to the West Virginia roster. But for now, we have a few additions, and we're talking about Tyron Bradley now factoring in at the bandit position or potentially at the defensive end position as a pass rushing specialist for the Mountaineers coming over from Abilene Christian. And I think it's a good pickup for the Mountaineers, whether he ends up factoring in coming off the edge of defensive end or here at Bandit, where he could potentially spell Jared Bartlett. We know James Hurd has the potential to get great reps there. The coaching staff has raved about him and his pass rushing capabilities, but I think Tyron Bradley is a player that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit as I update his year. He's actually a junior. I apologize. I was actually listed him as a sophomore. He's actually a junior, 2 years of eligibility remaining for the Mountaineers. But West Virginia has officially added a lot of these transfers to the roster. And let's look at the next one here. Coming on the defensive side, as I said, 3 out of 4 of these are. So let's cover the defensive side here fully before we add our official one edition that has come lately on the offensive side here on our May 24th roster update here on the Country Roads webcast. And that final defensive edition here on the May 24th update of the West Virginia football roster for the upcoming season comes in the addition of Beanie Bishop, the transfer cornerback coming over from Minnesota, began his career at Western Kentucky before moving over to Minnesota, where he played a good role there on that defense, which we know personally as Mountaineer fans is a great Minnesota Golden Gopher defense. We learned that firsthand a couple seasons ago when we took on Minnesota, and that defense absolutely dominated that game, really. And so adding a player from that defense is certainly not a bad thing, and I'm glad to see the West Virginia Mountaineers add Beanie Bishop at the cornerback position. As we know, the secondary is an area that we definitely need the West Virginia defense to improve if we want to see the Mountaineers have team success in this upcoming 2023 season. But Beanie Bishop coming to the Mountaineers from Minnesota, a 5'10", 185-pound defensive back that will come to the Mountaineers as a redshirt senior. So this will be his final year of eligibility coming up in 2023, and I fully expect him to play a part in the Mountaineer defense this upcoming season. Personally, I think that he will factor in passing situations when West Virginia goes to a nickel or dime package where they need a slot corner intact. I think that you will see Beanie Bishop kind of play that slot corner role for the Mountaineers this upcoming season, and maybe even beyond that. As we know, both starting cornerback positions are kind of up for grabs for the Mountaineers. Who knows how much he will factor in, but he certainly has great potential to help this defense coming up this upcoming season, coming over from Minnesota, as you see here officially announced from the university in the press release there over on WVUsports.com, as we've shared all of those detailing each addition here to the West Virginia roster on our May 24th update. And of course, along with that, we need to now add Beanie Bishop to our roster tracker here on the Country Roads webcast, of course. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to add him in at the cornerback position. We're going to slot him in right here on this other side. Like I said, all of these, of course, subject to change moving forward. None of these listed in any particular order at the time being. I'd like to create a depth chart as we get closer to the fall and get closer to the start of the 2023 football season. So be on the lookout for that. But as of now, of course, just trying to incorporate all these scholarship players on the roster so that people will know who to expect to see coming up as we get closer and closer to the 2023 West Virginia football season. But we know Beanie Bishop will be a redshirt senior at one of the cornerback positions, as we detail here as our additions on the May 24th roster update here on the Country Roads webcast. And let's flip over to the other side of the football and talk about our lone offensive addition. That way we'll be detailing as far as transfers go here on this May 24th update. And that is, of course, Noah Massey coming to the West Virginia Mountaineers from the Division II level from Angelo State, as announced, of course, on the official press release over by the university on WVUsports.com by Mike Montoro. And you've heard me rave about Noah Massey's large frame when I talked about his commitment to the Mountaineers, 6'4", 230 pounds. So that's a great frame at the wide receiver position that West Virginia hasn't had in quite some time and really hasn't had a ton of in general over recent history of Mountaineer football. So someone that I'm really excited to see contribute to the West Virginia Mountaineers during his lone year of eligibility here with the program. And I think that he is in great position to help the West Virginia Mountaineers in the red zone and potentially on conversion down situations as well with that large frame, as you can see here at the Division II level. Had great success there, so we can go ahead and add him to our West Virginia football roster tracker. Like I said, for now, some of these will be subject to change. I've heard reports that he's going to help the West Virginia Mountaineers at the inside, actually, maybe in the slot in situation. Like I said, maybe in the red zone or in conversion down type situations. But for now, for our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and slot him here on the outside right here at the position where I currently have Cortez Braham and Davis Mallinger listed, as I think that he may factor in on the outside and the inside some, just be a player that West Virginia uses situationally in both spots whenever they need him to make a play for the Mountaineers. But lone year of eligibility for the West Virginia Mountaineers, and I hope that he makes a great impact for the program this upcoming season. So I'll scroll up here to the top and just kind of slowly scroll down through here. This is kind of how the roster sits with current scholarship players for the Mountaineers as we continue to progress through the offseason here and get closer and closer to the 2023 West Virginia football season. Like I said, I'll continue to update this as more scholarship players are added, whether it be incoming true freshmen that still haven't yet been added to the roster, and we will see them added here in the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to June here. With Memorial Day coming up, I think you'll see more of these officially be announced by the university, whether it be some of these transfers in that are not yet on campus or some of these true freshmen. I'll continue to check the university's official roster there on WVUsports.com and continue to provide roster updates here on the Country Roads webcast, and they will all be dated, of course, just as this one here is with our May 24th update here on the Country Roads webcast, announcing those 3 defensive additions and, of course, our 1 offensive addition here with the wide receiver Noah Massey coming to the Mountaineers from the Division II level. So there you have it, Mountaineer Nation. Another roster update from us here on the Country Roads webcast. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on any one of these new additions that have joined the West Virginia football roster here, as our May 24th roster update has now officially been released. And like I said, we'll continue to update this roster as the offseason progresses and we lead into the 2023 fall camp and the 2023 WV football season as a whole. But love to hear your thoughts on the roster as it stands currently and what you think moving forward. Be sure to let us know down in the comments. We really appreciate the interactions as we continue to try and grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.